Hey everyone, I just wanted to share an experience that I had last summer while on a walk. The only thing that was different on this particular day was that I didn't have my dog with me. It was the first and last time that I decided to leave her at home. I live right by the St. Lawrence River and there are many places to access and explore in it. I went for a walk on the usual trail that I take and it was uneventful. On the drive home, I was blown away by the sunset, and I had to get a picture before it was too late. I decided to pull into a parking area that had trails leading right to the water. Before heading for the trail, I scanned my surroundings. There was a red work truck and a white car in the parking lot as well, so I knew that I wasn't alone. Still, I made the extremely dumb decision to put my headphones in to listen to the latest My Chemical Romance song as I made my way to the water. It's funny because my intuition was screaming at me all day that day. It was really quite bizarre, because I didn't have Freya that day. I was going over in my head what I could do to defend myself if I needed to. I remember wishing that I had some form of a weapon. I remember ignoring my inner voice when it told me to leave one headphone out. I ignored my intuition a lot that day. This was extremely foolish of me and a mistake that I will never make again. I believe that a woman's intuition is her own built-in defense mechanism. Physical strength belongs to men, for the most part, and intuitive strength belongs to women. Never ignore your innate gut instinct. It's there to save your life. I began to make my way to a trail completely oblivious to the danger that was watching and waiting to make its move. As I made my way down the path, there was suddenly a man coming around the bend in front of me. Because the trail is so narrow, I step back into the side to allow the man to pass me. And that's when I step on the foot of another man. We'll call him the creep. That was literally inches behind me. I automatically assumed that these men were together and that I was royally screwed. I quickly sprinted down the trail and FaceTimed my best friend because of how sinister the situation felt to me. I looked behind me once I had made it to the water, and the creep who was stalking me kept looking back and forth between me and the gentleman that we had passed. He wasn't approaching me, but he was still watching me. I take off down the shoreline to find another trail that would take me back to my car, all while still on FaceTime with my friend. I'll never forget the view that evening either. The most enchanted like purple fog hung over the water, making it hard to tell where the water ended and where the sky began. This beauty was tainted by imagining myself floating face up in the water or face down on the shore. My intuition was off the chain and I knew that I had to get to my car as fast as I could. Fortunately, I did make it to my car. That's when the gentleman that had passed the creep and I in the trail drove his red truck up to my car. He rolled down his window and before I could ask what he wanted from me, he asked me, "Did you know that guy?" I of course said, "No, I thought you knew him." The gentleman said that he had no clue who the creep was and that he assumed that we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I explained how I didn't even hear him come up behind me and that I had no idea where he came from. That's when the man said this to me. "I felt it in my bones that I needed to stay to make sure you were okay. Something wasn't right with that guy." He explained how he had refused to leave, which is why the creep kept looking back and forth between the gentleman and myself. The gentleman said that he knew the creep was waiting for him to leave so that he could make his move on me. He didn't leave though. Instead, he stared down the man to let him know that he was onto him. That's when the creep bolted to his car and sped out of the parking lot like a bat out of it. The man said that his license plate was out of state, though I cannot recall which state the gentleman said it was. I also don't know if he got his plate number or why I didn't ask for it. I guess the whole stress of the situation left me in a frenzied panic, and it didn't cross my mind to even ask. Looking back now, I know where the creep was hiding. He was hiding behind a couple of large bushes right next to the trail. That's the only place I can think of, and the thought of this creep on the hunt sends chills down my spine. The creep was tall, built, and handsome, bearded, and had black hair, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He wore a simple white t-shirt, khaki shorts, and flip-flops. He certainly wasn't there to watch the sunset or to take a walk. He was there to hunt for his chosen prey. Neither myself or the creep expected the gentleman to come around the bend at the moment that he did. I swear to God, I was seconds away from being harmed by the creep that was literally on my heels. The gentleman who had appeared around the bend was my savior, and I wish I knew who he was today so that I could thank him properly. I also wish I knew who the creep was and where he is today. I wonder if he travels state to state, sneaking up on unsuspecting women in remote areas. There's no reason for him to have been that close behind me. There's no reason for him to have left if he simply wanted to see the sunset as well. If he was there to see the sunset, he would have stayed and watched in someplace else. Instead, he bolted in a way that solidified for the man, my savior, that the creep did have sinister intentions that day. The days following the incident were tough. The more it sunk in, the more small and vulnerable I felt. My mind runs wild when I wonder what would have happened if that savior of a man wasn't there that day. I've learned a few things from this incident. I'll never wear both headphones while out walking in secluded areas ever again, and I'll never leave my dog at home. If my Freya girl was with me that day, the man wouldn't have been able to even get a little bit close to me. Freya's like my security blanket, my living and breathing defense mechanism, as well as the absolute love of my life. Dogs truly are so incredible and should be cherished. Always watch your back because you never know who might be sneaking up right behind you at any given moment at any given place. Sometimes evil truly comes out of nowhere. So this happened about a year ago at the time that I was 17. This guy hired me to just do basic stuff around a building that he managed. However, he always gave me a weird feeling like something wasn't right with him. But he paid me $20 an hour, so I stuck by despite feeling like I should leave. He would often talk about how everyone else he had hired in the past would quit because they were weirded out by him. He would ask me if I was weirded out, but I would say no because he was paying me a ton. After a few months of this, it came to a climax. He pulled me away from sweeping and told me to take a seat. He then told me that I had to distract him or else he would do something that he would regret. So for an hour, I just talked to him about anything and everything. Throughout the entire talk, he kept saying that he was a terrible person and had done horrible things. He told me that I would hate him if I knew what he did. Throughout the conversation, I was worried that he would do something, so I contemplated running or fighting, but instead I just kept talking. Eventually, he seemed to calm down and said that I could go home for the day, but asked if I wanted ice cream first. I refused. I got home and texted him that I was leaving, and he apologized, and I haven't heard from him since. The other night around 10, I stopped by a liquor store with my friend, pulled into the parking lot, and noticed a black truck to the left of my car with a man who appeared to be sitting in it, not doing anything. My friend waited in the car and I went to make my purchase. Everything in the store was fine, and I grabbed what I wanted. But then the hairs on the back of my neck stood up and I could feel someone watching me. I turned slowly and out of the corner of my eye saw the truck guy standing at a refrigerator with nothing in his hands, just standing there watching me. I'm used to this kind of behavior, honestly. It takes a lot to bother me, so I shrugged it off and walked towards him to get to the register, and briefly made eye contact with him, and the look in his eyes, it changed immediately and he lunged towards me. I stopped, quickly, and I looked up in disbelief at him. He made some quick, awkward apology and then laughed. I just kind of shake my head and begin to start walking when he does it again. At this point, I'm holding onto the bottle that I want to buy, ready to defend myself with it. I give him a, "Are you serious right now?" type of look, and I walk up to the register. The truck guy follows. There's one person in front of me, and the truck guy doesn't understand or care about the typical personal space bubble. I'm actually getting anxious at this point. I can almost feel him breathing on me, and I'm regretting my choice of clothing. The dress that I have on doesn't cover much. I haven't worried about my clothing choice in a decade, but this guy is making me uncomfortable. I should have left the store then. I make my purchase, leave the store, and quickly tell my friend about the encounter and say, I want to get the heck out of here. Truck guy must have been quick in the store because as soon as I'm turning my car on, he's already in his and still staring me down. As I take a right turn to leave the parking lot, I see in my rear view that he's got his right blinker on too. We leave and this guy proceeds to follow us, not down just one but several streets. Both my friend and I are freaked out at this point. After 15 minutes of driving with him following us, my friend tells me to pull over and let him pass. Anxiety peaks as he pulls over behind us. I have no clue what to do at this point. I don't want him to follow me home. My friend is angry and steps out of the car and just stands there and stares at the guy. After a few minutes, fortunately, he drives off. I don't think he knew that I had a guy with me. I waited a few minutes to calm down before heading home. Nothing has shaken me quite like that, not in a long time. I won't be going back to that store or town anytime soon. I've had my fair share of creepy people throughout my life. Bucharest is a city where things like this rarely happened, so just take it from me. I had bad luck. First of all, let me just say that I'm not your average scaredy cat dude who likes it when someone stares at them for too long, unlike I've seen some posters here do. I'm also not going to hide under my bed if my house gets broken into. You better believe I'll stomp their butts with no regards for my own safety. And putting being a keyboard warrior aside, there have been a few moments that I've had with total strangers that have been scarring, genuinely terrifying moments. I'm going to be talking about the most messed up situation that I have ever been in my life, and hope to any God out there that it never happens again. The incident happened 4 years ago before New Year's Eve. I was 18 at the time, and I had finished high school in the summer, and with no activity and nothing else to do, I decided to look for something I could do part-time with my limited skill sets and talents. The only things that I was remotely good at was playing video games and boxing. My mom found out this casting job in a newspaper article, back when she didn't know how to browse the internet, and she called and set up a meeting without really talking to me about it. I decided to play along since I was searching for something anyway, and casting in some shows seemed like an awesome choice. I'm 6'1" and I was skinny at the time, so I figured they could make me wear stuff like a clothing model. Needless to say, my naivety got the best of me, and I didn't realize things did not work that way. I went to the casting studio and the place was a total wreck. It was in some rundown building at the edge of the city. No windows, the bricks in the wall were cracked, and the withering vegetation was getting a hold of the place. It was also strange that there were no people around, but I figured this is the city's edge and all, then it should be a normal sight. I realized that there was no front door, so I went down some stairway on the far end of the building, which led me to a rotted wooden door. There was no handle or anything, so I didn't even know if I should push or try to pull it with the tip of my finger somehow. I decided that it must be the wrong place, so I called the number which my mom provided me with, and somebody answered. It was, well, she said that she was a woman, but I thought she was a man at first. She had a very low-pitched voice. She was very sweet and patient with me, and told me that this is indeed the building that I should go into, and that I should try to hold the door and push it up a bit, and then pull it towards me slowly so it wouldn't break from the hinges, and not to be afraid when I come inside because it's going to be pitch black. Apparently there's no electricity in that area, so I would just need to go forward until I feel another door. And that'll take me to another hallway which is completely lit up and take me to their office. Now hold up. What kind of insane person do you think I am to do this? I watched way too many horror movies to know this is all kinds of bad. The lady on the other side gave me a brief explanation on why the office was like this. Apparently, this was an apartment complex built in the 60s, but it got really wrecked after the '77 earthquake, which killed quite a few people because some of the pillars on the second floor were unstable beforehand. So they had to close it and no one's really done anything with it since. Since this casting company's budget was really low, they couldn't afford to have a nice looking office and to be in a good looking place, or at least a safe one. If you're having trouble with logic here, they were her words and not mine. One thing that I found sketchy is that somewhere in this conversation, she said, "You're alone, yeah?" I thought it was a bit strange, as if she could see me somehow. Her story seemed legit though. I closed the call, opened the rotting door, and sure enough, darkness. I should point out that when I pulled the door to me, there was a chair in front of it, probably to block it from collapsing inward as it apparently swung both ways because of its state of decay. I activated my phone flashlight to look around and it was really empty. Just a few chairs in the corner, and a white ragged and dirty looking tarp on the ground next to them. The door in the front had the same aspect of rotting wood. I figured that they would at least renovate that one to make it look more appealing. I pushed the door gently and it opens with a very loud creak. I think I should have pulled it. But this one didn't have a handle as well. Everything was still dark. I started questioning the system that they use and the fact that they're not professional. The lady told me that this hallway would be lit up, yet it wasn't. With my phone flashlight still on, I scanned the room for clues as to where the office might be. I know how this must seem to you listening to this. How did I not pick up on this incredibly sketchy situation? I'm just used to this. In the past, me and my parents didn't have light sources in our backyard, so whenever I needed to get something from the pantry, which also did not have a light source, I would do so in total darkness. This whole thing was getting on my nerves, so I deactivated my flashlight and decided to call the phone number again. As soon as I put my phone in my ear and the light it emitted went out, I heard a loud creak behind me, the sound of the rotting door that I pushed out earlier getting put back into place. I jumped at the sound and let out a sharp yell. I instinctively put my phone out, but the light the dial screen was letting out was too weak to see in front of me. "Hello?" I asked in a worried voice. No response. But in a second, I could hear the dial tone from my phone and hear a Nokia ringtone, the piano one, from the other side of the room where the door had been closed. I stay silent for a moment and the ringing stops. I have never been more horrified in my life. I crouched down and started moving along the wall to my left, as quickly and quietly as possible. I hear very quiet footsteps coming from my right, but I couldn't tell if they were coming toward me. I formulated a very basic escape plan in an instant. I had a general idea of where the door was, and the footsteps seemed to be directionless. I took 2 coins of 50 bani out of my back pocket and threw them at the other side of the room, and then I booked it. I pushed on the edge of the door at first because I ran away way too fast and had no idea where the door was exactly, and then I pushed against it to get out of the room. I tripped because I expected no resistance, yet a chair was blocking the other side. I heard scampered footsteps behind me and slight grunts. I get up and run away in the dark room with no regards to what I may hit on my path. I just knew the exit would be right in front of me. Sure enough, I hit another chair on the way, the one that I found blocking the door at the entrance, and it propelled me so hard that I bashed the door and knocked it off its hinges. I opened my eyes and I was outside, so my first instinct was screaming for help at the top of my lungs. I looked at the building and finally see him. A tall, overweight man, probably around 300 pounds, carrying a cloth in one of his hands. He was wearing a white tank top and jeans or sweatpants. I really couldn't be bothered to notice at the time. The expression on his face was one of pure anger. I scampered about and ran up the stairs as quickly as I could, and then turned right to go into town. I ran for about 3 or 4 minutes at full speed, not stopping for anything, until I finally reached the main street and I saw a lot of cars again. I was still in a panicked state, so I beelined it for the nearest taxi and told him to take me the heck home. I called my mom when I was halfway home and told her everything that just happened. She felt sick to her stomach and started crying that she put me in a situation that I might have died. Later that day, I filed a report to our nearest police station and they sent a dispatch there. We were informed that they found traces of a few blunts which had cannabis sativa and a double-edged razor on the ground. They also found a broken Nokia flip phone in the dirt outside. My parents told the police that if they found out anything else, to please contact them. This has left me with some serious issues, as I know I feel very anxious whenever I go to a job interview. I only feel relatively safe if the location is in a very public place, and the interview is at rush hour. One man did this to me. So kids, stay safe and remember, your martial arts training doesn't mean crap when you're scared out of your mind.